First Man, which is directed by Damien Chazelle and stars Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, the first man to step on the moon, or not, depending on if you're one of those people who believes in that conspiracy theory, is another one of my catch-up videos because, you know, I missed a lot last year and I'm still catching up. We've got a few more, at least 10 or something videos that I need to do. But anyway, so this film showcases Neil Armstrong's family life, the complications that led up to the 1969 mission where they did go to the moon, and, you know, again, I don't believe the conspiracy theory, and yes, the actual mission itself is also included. I've always wanted to see a space exploration historical film come out in my generation that could utilize the sensibilities that filmmakers have gained over the last decade or so, and using technology, skills, and CGI that we have now that we didn't have during the times like, during like Apollo 11, or not Apollo 11, Apollo 13. Now, we did have Gravity, but that one was a bit more of an action film than anything. I wanted something that was slightly more grounded. And this movie came from a director whose films have always gotten Oscar buzz and wins. You know, Damien Chazelle is one of my favorite actors working today, even with his very short resume. He directed Whiplash, which I think is a masterpiece. He also directed La La Land, which was my favorite movie of 2016. And so when I found out that he was, you know, making another movie, but this time he'd be branching off from something that wasn't music-oriented, that made me really excited. Now, before I get into the video, one disclaimer. So, for those of the uninitiated, those who've never seen any of my videos, the way that I break down my thoughts is I break them down into pro and con sections. You know, pros are everything that I liked about the movie, and then the cons are everything that I either did not like or straight up hated, or maybe they were lacking in a certain quality. And I try to keep the sections separate, but sometimes I'll use them to bounce off of each other, but you'll see, you'll understand if I do that. But anyway, that's my disclaimer, or your disclaimer, whatever. Let's go ahead and get into the review. First off, the performances are from Gosling and Claire Foy, who plays Neil's wife, Janet. Just, wow. They give amazing performances, and you know, I think, you know, I think that Foy gave the better performance overall. I was actually surprised that she wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actress this year, but honestly, like, I wasn't mad at the nominations. I wouldn't look at them and say, okay, that person needs to go, put Claire Foy in there. But, you know, until If Beale Street Could Talk, she was actually my pick to win Best Supporting Actor, but then, or Actress, but then, you know, that happened. Up to this point, when I saw this movie, I hadn't seen The Crown, so I didn't know anything about Claire Foy. I just knew she was on The Crown, and everybody loves her on The Crown. So, of course, you know, I had expectations going in about her acting because of how much it was hyped up, and honestly, I was not disappointed. I still feel like she was the one who should have at least been nominated. She was still, in my mind, the runner-up for Best Supporting Actress, but, you know, that, I'm not going to complain about that much longer. But anyway, Ryan Gosling plays exactly how he was directed, but that also lies in one of the film's faults, and you know what, I'm not going to transition into a con right now. I think, give me a bit, I may actually be able to do something with that a little bit later when I actually get to the cons, because I feel like I'm going to be on a similar specific topic for a little bit. I enjoyed the fact that despite this movie having the budget of a blockbuster, the writers decided to make it a much more personal story, unlike something like Gravity, which is pretty much all sights and sounds. The view inside the minds of fellow astronauts, you know, seeing some of them die from complications in the air, or even before they got off of the ground, watching a father having to explain to his children that there is a legitimate possibility that he will not come back. He does plan on coming back, but there is a possibility that he will die. You know, just This is an approach that I don't think many filmmakers would make going into this kind of movie, especially since, considering movies like Apollo 13 and Gravity, and, those movies focus solely on the mission or the circumstances of whatever their mission was, and maybe only give little slivers of other aspects. Whenever they showcased scenes located in the atmosphere or space itself, or even in the cockpits of their shuttles, the film is very riveting. The visual effects are seamless too. Since Chazelle utilized handheld cameras for the entire film, it adds this kind of rugged and grainy feel to the film. It also does kind of add to like a more documentarian way of filmmaking, and it just makes you feel like you're actually there. And there are times where you would be in the ship and it's rattling so much that you feel like it's on the brink of tearing apart, thanks to, again, just the sound design and the visual effects. And those are the scenes that were the most suspenseful that I've seen in years. Like, I legitimately had a hard time watching these scenes because, honestly, the idea of being inside a space shuttle actually terrifies the hell out of me. But I couldn't look away because I was so mesmerized by the craft that the filmmakers brought to the film, and I couldn't look away from it. This film feels like a horror movie to me in those parts, but again, it's so mesmerizing I can't tear my eyes away. And I definitely praise First Man on a technical level, and it more than deserved the win for Best Visual Effects this year at the Oscars. My original pick was Avengers Infinity War because of, how realistic Thanos was. But then, thinking about it, the best visual effects are those that you don't know are there, and I really didn't even think about it throughout First Man, not even once. Now, there's only one con now that I think about it, so I probably should have transitioned into it from that first pro, but you know what, I'll just go with it. The film has a bit of a detached feel of it, and it's an odd feeling given the focus of, showcasing Armstrong's life and his family's life. It feels like you're not really experiencing it, and I also touched on it slightly when I was talking about Gosling. He's a normal, subdued actor. That's one of his shticks, and I really enjoy that about him. But I didn't feel like I truly got a sense of who he was, other than early on in one scene where he shows the most amount of emotion anywhere in the film, but afterwards, he's just all stoic all the time, and it makes the film drag a bit whenever we are at home with his family and him alone. Whenever it's at NASA, in space, or on the moon, it's great pacing, but again, there's just a disconnect with the family portion, despite the fact that that's a majority focus. I want to talk about the controversy that came up after this movie released, and if you still haven't seen the movie, then all I will say before I actually get into the controversy is that despite a big flaw with how the filmmakers sort of detached the home life and Neil's life and emotions from the story, I really enjoyed First Man, especially on a practical and technical level, especially cinematography and visual effects. Now that all that's out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the controversy. Again, I wanted to separate it because it is a big spoiler. I'm referring to the controversy around that scene on the moon where Neil Armstrong has, I think it was a bracelet that his daughter had, and he dropped it on the moon, and I just remembered a lot of people online complaining about it and how it actually didn't happen, and that Chazelle and the other writers just made something up to pull at our heartstrings, which they did for me. Now, I'm not saying that it actually did happen. The evidence is pointing more towards that it actually didn't happen. But the point of a film is not to be historically accurate. I know that I said that with Bohemian Rhapsody, and that sometimes it's a little bit different. for some people, it's harder to distinguish it because of their attachment to the source material. With Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen is one of my favorite bands, so of course I nitpicked a lot more on the historical inaccuracies. But I did point out that it's not the filmmaker's job to be historically accurate. And film is an art form, and that piece of art is first and foremost determined by the writers and the director. And you know, all they did was take events that truly happened and dramatized it, as many other movies have done before with many other historical epics. And it's honestly something that I always get annoyed about whenever people complain about how some things done in a movie wasn't actually what happened in real life, or maybe they skipped over an important piece, or maybe not an important piece. But I don't know. That's all I have to say on the matter. It's just, it's not their job to be historically accurate. They're making a movie. It's a piece of entertainment. And those are my thoughts on First Man as a film, and also the controversy surrounding that bit near the end. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to hit that like button. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with everything that's going on the channel. Now all that's left to say is, wait. Oh, I forgot one part. Don't forget to, you know, keep the conversation going down below in the comments section. You know, I really love seeing what you guys think about the different movies and topics that I cover on here. Okay, now I'm at the end. Now all that's left to say is farewell until the next video, all you movie fans and casual moviegoers alike, and keep on being awesome.